Have you ever pondered on what the Universal Law Community Trust is and its implications? Welcome to a journey of understanding and exploring an entity that is as unique as it is intriguing. The Universal Law Community Trust, or ULCT, is not your regular trust. It's a concept that goes beyond the traditional understanding of trust and delves into realms of sovereignty and rights, particularly those related to private conveyance. Let's start by unpacking the idea of a sovereign private conveyance. When we say sovereign, we're talking about an authority that is free from external control. In the context of the ULCT, this term refers to a form of private conveyance that operates independently, free from the constraints of conventional regulations and restrictions. Now, imagine a world where you have the right to freely travel without the burden of tolls, taxes, parking fees, or permits. Imagine not having to worry about road tax or insurance for your private conveyance. This is the world that ULCT envisions through its principle of sovereign private conveyance. But it's not just about free travel. It's also about the restoration of rights. The ULCT stands firm on the belief that every individual should have the right to move freely, without being subjected to financial penalties or restrictive regulations. This belief is rooted in the idea of sovereignty and the inherent rights that come with it. So, what does all this mean? Well, it means that the ULCT is redefining the concept of a trust. It's challenging the status quo and proposing an alternative that not only respects individual rights, but also advocates for their restoration. Indeed, the Universal Law Community Trust is a unique entity. But what does this mean for you? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the implications of ULCT's concepts and principles, and how they might just revolutionize your understanding of trusts, rights, and sovereignty. You may be wondering, what are the benefits of the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance? Well, let's dive right in. The Universal Law Community Trust's sovereign private conveyance is a vehicle of liberation, taking you on a journey free from the trappings of common travel constraints. It's all about restoring your inherent rights, and among these is the right to freely travel. Imagine cruising down the highway, the wind rushing past, and not a toll booth in sight. With ULCT's sovereign private conveyance, there's no toll. The open road is truly open, and it's yours to explore. Now think about tax, that pesky little deduction that always seems to be lurking around the corner. With this conveyance, you can forget about it. No tax is required, giving you more freedom to allocate your resources as you see fit. Picture a city street, cars lined up bumper to bumper, each one waiting for a parking spot. With this conveyance, you wouldn't have to worry about finding a spot or paying a hefty fine because there's no parking and other fines involved. Imagine not having to deal with the hassle of fees, passes, permits, or road tax. It may seem too good to be true, but it's a reality with the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance. And finally, let's talk about insurance. It's often seen as a necessary evil, but with this conveyance, it's not required. You're free from the chains of insurance premiums, unburdening you from an additional financial obligation. These benefits all add up to create a unique, liberating experience. It's about more than just travel. It's about asserting your rights, reclaiming your freedom, and living life on your own terms. So, with the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance, a whole new world of freedom opens up to you. There are misconceptions about the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance. Let's debunk them. One common misconception that often surfaces is the notion that the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance is a free pass to evade taxes, tolls, and other statutory charges. This is simply not the case. In fact, the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance is not about evading responsibilities, but about restoring the rights of an individual to travel freely. It is about the liberty to move without any undue burden or interference. Another misconception is that the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance allows for lawless behavior. This is far from the truth. The ULCT is governed by universal law, which respects all beings and their rights. It is not about breaking laws, but about asserting the inherent rights of individuals. The ULCT's sovereign private conveyance operates under the understanding that every individual is a sovereign being with the right to move freely, without any commercial intercourse being forcibly imposed. A third misconception is that you can use the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance to avoid insurance. This is not accurate. While it's true that the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance does not require insurance in the traditional sense, it does not mean that individuals are left unprotected. The ULCT provides a platform for mutual aid and support among its members, creating a system where everyone looks out for each other. Lastly, some believe that the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance is a scheme to exploit the system. This couldn't be further from the truth. The ULCT is not about exploiting systems, but about creating a community where everyone's rights are respected and upheld. It's about creating a world where each individual is a valued and respected member of the community, free to move and live without unnecessary burdens or constraints. Remember, knowledge is power, and it's essential to know the facts about the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance. Now let's understand the relationship between SPC and HM government. The relationship between a secured party creditor, SPC, and Her Majesty's government, HM government, within the context of the Universal Law Community Trust, ULCT, is both unique and complex. To comprehend this relationship, it's vital to first understand the roles of each party. An SPC is an individual who has exercised their sovereign rights under the ULCT, essentially declaring themselves as a private entity separate from the commercial jurisdiction of the government. This individual, having claimed their rights, is no longer subject to the commercial laws and obligations typically imposed by the government. On the other hand, HM government, as we usually understand it, is the governing body of the United Kingdom. However, within the context of the ULCT, HM government is considered a debtor of the Universal Law Community Trust. But what does it mean for HM government to be a debtor of the ULC Trust? In simple terms, it implies that the government owes a debt to the trust. This debt is not monetary but is instead a debt of rights and privileges that the government typically exercises over individuals. When an individual becomes an SPC, they reclaim these rights and privileges, thereby creating a form of debt that the government can never repay. This dynamic fundamentally shifts the power balance, with the SPC operating outside the commercial jurisdiction of the government, free from obligations such as taxes, tolls, and insurances. As such, any attempts by HM government to enforce commercial laws on an SPC could be seen as an infringement of the rights reclaimed by the SPC, and under the ULCT is considered as statutory rape. This relationship between SPC and HM government underlines the unique structure of the ULCT. So we've learned a lot about the ULCT and its sovereign private conveyance, haven't we? We started our journey by introducing the Universal Law Community Trust, or ULCT, providing a glimpse into its purpose and objectives. We've seen how the ULCT offers a platform for individuals to exercise their rights and freedoms, particularly through its sovereign private conveyance. This unique concept allows members to travel freely, without the burden of tolls, taxes, parking fees, or permits. Moreover, no insurance is required, and no charges can be applied, which is truly a revolutionary concept. We then delved into the multitude of benefits that come from the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance. The freedom to travel without the typical restrictions and financial obligations is just the tip of the iceberg. This goes beyond the mere act of travel. It's about the restoration of individual rights, the right to freely navigate the world in the manner we choose. We also took the time to clear up some misconceptions about the ULCT and its sovereign private conveyance, shedding light on the truth behind the rumors and misunderstandings. We discovered that this isn't about evading responsibilities or breaking laws, but rather about asserting one's rights under universal law. Lastly, we explored the relationship between the Sacred Party Creditors, or SPC, and Her Majesty's government. We've seen how the SPC holds a debtor status to the ULC Trust, a complex relationship that further emphasizes the unique standing of the ULCT and its members. As we wrap up our exploration, it's clear that the ULCT's sovereign private conveyance isn't just about driving without a license or skipping out on fees. It's about a larger movement, a shift towards recognizing and upholding the rights of individuals under universal law. It's about challenging the status quo and pushing for a world where individuals can enjoy their freedoms without undue restrictions. The Universal Law Community Trust's sovereign private conveyance is indeed a unique concept, one that opens up a world of possibilities and freedoms for its members.